Welcome to Flight Paths. My name is Simon, and we are in a Huey helicopter over the battlefield of Waterloo. And it's a strange combination, I know. We're using the flight simulator of Microsoft to have a look at these historic moments. The satellite imagery that Microsoft gives us enables us to get a one-to-one recreation of the Earth, and then we can then use that then to fly around and have a look at the terrain and see how that would have affected the decisions made on the time. Topography, distances, slopes are all very key, and especially during the Napoleonic period. The understanding of topography, the understanding of distances are really important. So we left the last part and we were talking about the second phase of the battle. Ney had basically reported back to Napoleon to say that the Erlon's Corps is now in position, and they were over here, where this white dot is here, and they were ready to begin their attack. And initially there was a cannonade, and we talked about how the cannonade was so loud. There was even reports in the Kentish Gazette to say that the rumble of cannon fire could be heard coming from in the direction of Dunkirk. So it was going all the way across the channel. There was people saying that they could hear it in Antwerp, and people in Brussels said that the windows were shaking in Brussels from this cannonade. And the cannonade was coming across from over here, where my dot is now, aiming down to the British positions below us. And we're going to fly around in the helicopter for a bit. We jump out every now and then if we want to get closer. So let me know if you do want to get closer to anything, if you want to see something from a different angle. Let me know. We can jump out, we can use the drone, we can use the helicopter, we can do all that sort of good stuff. You can join me, by the way, if you have got Flight Simulator. We are on the European West server, and if you just go to Brussels, you'll see me flying just to the south of Brussels. So let's swing the Huey around, and we'll then fly along the direction of the cannonade. So the Napoleonic tactics at the time is basically to use it's all about intimidation. He's brought up his troops, he's showing his troops, he's showing his strength. He's now got the cannonade, and it's all about trying to break the resolve of these Allied troops up on this ridge. So we're here now, and this is where the French cannon are. Let's dive low, let's get a bit aggressive. And they're firing up here onto this ridge just here. Now the rain has it's been wet a lot of the time. Yesterday, or the 17th of June, it rained, and then on the morning of the 18th, it was rain. So the cannonballs are hitting quite sodden ground. The soil is quite a sort of a silty loam. It gets quite sticky, and the reverse slope here is also protecting the troops. Enabling them to they lie down and can protect themselves from the cannonade. Right, let me just pause here, and we can jump out. And I said in the last part that we look at some of these positions. This is the battlefield here. We were talking about, we've looked into Hougoumont, so if you, that's the position, the field, the forest on the right hand side over there, and that's where the beginning of the battle occurred. So if you want to watch that one, you can go back and watch it. Previous parts, we've done a lot of discussion of that. And then in this bit here, we're going to look now at some of the defensive positions that were here in the center, and especially this place here. This is a farm called La Haye Sainte. It's a quadrangle. The farmhouse is on this northern side. You can see it here. The farmhouse on the left there, and with the western side, which is on the right hand side as we look, is all stabling parts of it, sort of cow sheds, stables, and then there's a large barn on the south side, which is the furthest side where we're looking now. We had a large wall over here, protecting the eastern side of this position, and it's very similar to Hougoumont. These are these sort of almost semi-fortified sort of farm dwellings that you get in this area. The center of this wall had a piggery. It had a lean-to. It might even be that building there. And it's believed that one calf lived in that building during the course of the battle. On this side, actually where these trees are probably, was an orchard. And to the north, it's still there. It looks like there is an actual garden, a kitchen garden. And there was a gate here. Oops. On this side, as you can see. This is on the eastern side. On the western side, there's a gate as well, over here. So there's opening on the house. Comes through, obviously there's a door, goes through. And straight into the yard. But one of the doors, I think, the barn door, I think, had been removed and burnt by the redcoats in the previous evening. Now, unlike Hougoumont, the preparations here are not so extended. So there's we're looking at a letter from Lieutenant Graham. He was a member of the 2nd Light Battalion of the King's German Legion, and he wrote a letter in 1842. In it he says, I quote, I saw no sappers. They had no loopholes, excepting for 3 apertures, which we made with difficulty when we were told in the morning that we were to defend the farm. Our pioneers had been sent to Hougoumont the evening before, so they had no scaffolding or means of making any, because they had burnt the carts basically in the night before. And when he talks about scaffolding, we're talking about to be able to create sort of firing platforms so that they could fire over the wall. Our loopholes, if they may be thus termed, were on a level with the road on the outside, and later in the day the outside and later in the day the enemy got possession of one of the near the pond and began to fire upon us. Now I'm not sure where the pond is, but it sounds like the French managed to basically use the loophole that they made against them. So interesting how this isn't as well defended or prepared as Hougoumont. So that shows you something in the mindset that they definitely felt that Hougoumont would have to be the better protected place. So this is, though, very important. This is a forward position, forwards on the slope, in the centre of Wellington's position. So you can see this is the slope here, the ridge, and it drops down. That's the sort of, we're on the forward slope now. You can see how it's probably 200 meters down the slope from the ridge. So it was going to be manned, this position, by a few hundred Hanoverians. They're from the 2nd Light Battalion of the King's German Legion. It was going to be commanded by Major Baring. Major Baring was, he would go on to make an account of the battle, and he was one of the chief information guy, you know, what they call sources for Lieutenant Siborne when he does his account in his history of the battle that was in 1844. Baring, for example, talking about what does the battle begin? Well, Baring believes that the battle starts shortly after 11 AM. Not sure when that was. And so we've had now, if you remember, we've had a discussion that the battle began at 11:20. We've had a discussion that it was before 12 o'clock, so sometime between 11:20 and 12 o'clock. We've heard it being 11:50. Baring's now saying shortly after 11 AM. So we're kind of in that sort of, it's you know, anywhere between 11:20, 12 o'clock is when it starts. And he says that it starts because he could hear it begin over here at Hougoumont, which he can just see. If you were here, you can just see the trees over there is where the battle would have begun for him. At that time as well, he would stand to his men, and they moved into the orchard. And so they come out of these walls into these this orchard here, and this is the direction that they're expecting an attack from. Now he says that the farmhouse is in a slight hollow. I suppose you could say. I'm not sure if that is possible. He says the farmhouse is in a slight hollow, so the ridge to the south hid any advancing. Okay, so he says the ridge to the south hid any advancing enemy. So what he's basically saying is that from this position here, the ridge to the south, which is this ridge here, hid any movement from behind it. So I can see what he's saying there. That sort of ridge there's a sort of a very subtle ridge, and if you were down here, upside down, about here, it won't let me do it. And there you go. That ridge there makes it impossible to see what's coming from La Belle Alliance. Oh, we got a nice rainstorm coming across now. This is live weather, by the way, so this is June the 11th when we're talking. This is live. So he says as well at this point, we're at La Haye Sainte, and we're major bearing, and he says the few skirmishers open their attack, so the French tirailleurs start to probe in front. There's like a cloud of skirmishers in front of the French line, and they kind of move forward, and they're operating, often operating in pairs, one firing, one loading, moving around together. Remember, these crops are quite high, and they're moving forward, trying to get deny the enemy or the enemy skirmishers' positions. So he's saying that these skirmishers start with their attack, and he orders his men to lie down, presumably in the orchard, not to waste their fire and wait for them to get closer. The first shots is an interesting. He talks about the first shots from the French cut the reins of his horse. So he's obviously on a horse out here at the time, and the subsequent shots killed Major Bosseville. Hopefully that's how you pronounce it, which was his second in command. And that's what these skirmishers did. They would there'd be a nuisance. They're trying to sort of come forwards, but when they're firing, they're targeting officers. They're targeting officers or sergeant majors or anybody who's deemed to be giving commands. So anybody who's on a horse is likely to be an officer, and they would target him. So it looks like that's what happened. He's on his horse. He's getting shot at, and one of his officers, his second in command, is killed. Now this weather's getting pretty bad. I might just take off this live weather for now. Oh. And let's now at this time as well, the skirmishers are sort of the forward cloud in front of this is infantry, and Major Bearing starts to report that two columns of infantry start moving towards this position over the ridge. So we're down here. So presumably they're coming down here towards his position. And he says that one column would attack the buildings, and one column would attack the orchard. And because these men in the orchard are outnumbered, he orders them back, and they retreat to the barn, which is here. So presumably they come streaming back in through these doors. And at this point, Bering's horse is shot from him. Again, he's been targeted by the skirmishers. And the attacking French column were from the 1st Corps of Rail. So they're from probably Bechelou's division on this side, the right-hand side here. So standard practice at the time is an artillery bombardment that would precede a infantry advance, and so a chain of skirmishers would approach the target to harass the defenders and test for any weak points, and then the mass columns would come in and press home the assault. And so you get this similar sort of pattern. We've had it at Hougoumont. They opened with some sort of bombardment. Well, they would have done if they could see the chateau, but they did open up on some targets. They then have skirmishers going in, followed by more regular troops. And around about this time, Lieutenant Colonel von Klenke, he arrives with his Lüneburg battalion, and he gives support to Bering, and that means that Bering can go on the counter-attack, and he pushes the French back again away from the farmhouse. And there's reports of French cuirassiers in this area. They're forming up in front of the Hanoverians to the side of the orchard. So presumably somewhere around here. Now, not sure what cuirassiers will do in trying to get into the building, but they're here to make sure that you're sort of kettling them into the buildings. And at this point, Captain George Mayer, he reports that the French were moving into the garden at the rear. So he's the French are coming around, and they're trying to get into the garden at the back here. And Mayer orders his men back into from the garden into the house. So at this point, we're looking at the control on the outside has gone to the French. The orchard is now in control of the French. They've got support from French cuirassiers. And they forced Bering and Lüneburg's men into the buildings. And then we hear about so the main assault then becomes trying to attack this position here through these barn doors. Now, there's meant to be a missing barn door around this place because it was burnt down, and you get bodies piling up in this doorway, blocking the entrance. Bering's getting more horses shot from underneath him, but the French attacks on this position are getting thwarted. And the French then start, because they can't get in, they start using incendiary devices, setting light to the farm with some incendiary shells. And more support comes. Nassau troops arrive to support the position. And when we get to this is the sort of again, it's an ongoing two and four swinging battle. The final assault on the farm takes place around about 6 o'clock in the afternoon, and the French, they've basically noticed that there's a diminishing amount of fire coming. They're essentially running out of ammunition here, and they would push through the the assault through this door, through the back door, and would eventually win possession of it. So that is just to give you a sort of a background. Just remember that in the background, that sort of wave of assaults happening here. And over here at where this monument is, was the gravel pit. 2 companies of the 95th Rifles would hold this position. They're the ones who are armed with the Baker rifle. Remember, and these are Sharps rifles, if you think of it in terms of Sean Bean. The 1st Battalion was deployed close to the farmhouse, and they basically formed up along this sort of hedge and in this sort of gravel pit in this area here. This road would have been blocked. They had an abatis across here. And the gravel pit, I think, is quite shallow. It's not like a deep quarry, but it had a sort of a lip that provide cover, and then it enables the riflemen to sort of lie down and be protected. It was deep enough, basically, that they could stand in the pit and not be hit. So they would tend to fire their gun, then they could come down and they could load their gun standing up, and then they can come back up and fire. So think of it in that sort of terms of the size of the hole in this area. So the pit itself then, in a sense, protects the 95th Rifles because the cavalry won't fall into it or don't want to go into it. And this is the sort of position where the 95th Rifles would, again, they would defend and then pull back up onto the ridge here, and then go back down and reoccupy as waves of French attacks move in. They're sort of doing this all day long. Okay, so that's La Haye Sainte and the gravel pit. Right, we're coming up on 3 hours now that I've been streaming this. So I think I'll take a break here for the day, and I'll come back tomorrow. And tomorrow we'll look at the what's known as the second phase of the battle, when we'd look at d'Erlon's attack coming across these fields from the top of the screen to the bottom of the screen, and we'll see. We'll talk about how that phase of the battle pans out. So that will be tomorrow. So for everybody watching, thank you. Thank you for that. I tend to stream on Twitch and YouTube around about midday UK time. So that will be around about 7 in the morning if you're on the eastern coast of the United States, or if you're in Asia, probably around about mid-afternoon, 6 o'clock, something like that. I know if you're in Australia, New Zealand, probably late in the evening. So you can join me if you want from tomorrow. If you have got Microsoft Flight Simulator, please join in, and we can fly around together in the Huey. And I will put up this video in a number of different, break it all up and put it into little edible chunks on YouTube. You'll see a playlist. They usually pop up all along the top here, where you can go and follow back some of the previous episodes. So on that note, thank you very much. I will see you in the next one.